Hello and welcome to Retail Management BUS 302. This is our fourth week and we are in lecture 4. And as you know, we are talking about retail strategy and location this week. And what we've focused on so far, if you think about a funnel, we've gone from the very big and we're kind of narrowing down that funnel to more specific. So on the biggest side of things, we talked about site selection is, what kind of sites are available, what kind of stores are available. We then looked at different ways that we could start to evaluate those sites. And we talked about trade areas, right? So in finding the best consumers, right? And how, these locations should match our retail strategy, right? And now what we're going to do, we're going to move that funnel a little bit more, become a little bit more narrow and say, okay, once you have your site selected and everything, what about your store format? What kind of store format are you going to look at and layout and all those kind of things, right? So as you're starting to think about that, right, this is how you're going to design, how you design your store as part of how you implement your retail strategy. So once again, we're thinking about what are the needs of our target market and how do we develop this sustainable competitive advantage by within that retail strategy when we start trying to think about how are we going to design our store, right? So once we get the store site selected, now we're thinking that how is this location, how do we design it in order to create this sustainable advantage? And, part of this is it's going to help build loyalty to our consumers. So the utilitarian benefits of how am I going to just, this is what I need. I just need to get it done. And then we also have to balance that with the hedonic benefits of, hey, I want this to be a pleasurable experience. I want to get something, it should be more than just transactional, right? That's how you build loyalty with your consumers. Right. So if you think about the hedonic benefit side, right, and how maybe Starbucks designs its stores where they think more like Italian coffee bars that not only have that apparently have great coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I can only say this is what I've heard is there's this great coffee, but it's more, I do enjoy going to places like Starbucks and Caribou or Panera, more as a place to meet friends, socialize, and maybe get a little work done and those kind of things, right? So those are the hedonic benefits that come in with a location, so that you need to think about those versus utilitarian benefits. Once again, I just need to get my shopping experience done. Maybe I want no contact, especially as we've gone through COVID. I want that no contact payment option, or as little interaction with the maybe staff as possible, those kind of things. So you have to balance both of these within your store design. Okay. So when we think about our objectives, we've picked our site location. Now we need to design our store, right? The store design should help increase sales, right? So you want to design your store in such a way that people will, as they go through, say, "Oh, I didn't even think about needing that," and that motivates these unplanned purchases. You want to find ways within your store to control your costs and increase your profits, right? So having a store that's designed well can lower your labor costs, maybe keep shrinkage, which is, inventory theft, low. It can also maybe help if you have a environmentally green certified building, maybe take advantage of solar. Maybe you just have more windows, right? So you have natural light, can keep your utilities costs down. Are you compliant with legal considerations, things like ADA, right? There's all these things that you need to think about. And, what are you going to have to trade off for one thing to get the other? So when we talk about what kind of layout should you use and to use within your store, what kind of store design should you use? One of the more common ones that you see is a grid layout where you have parallel aisles with merchandise on both sides of the aisle, right? Boom. This is really easy for customers who want those utilitarian benefits. I just need to get in, get out, boom. You can locate your products, you can get in, get out. It's cost efficient. It does limit center store sales, right? So there's not going to be a lot of interactions, but it's how it works pretty well. So that's one way to do it with a grid. You can also use what's called the racetrack layout. Now, the racetrack layout is a loop layout where you have the store is broken down into departments, okay? And as you go through the departments, as you follow the racetrack around, or the loop around, there's going to be aisles that you can choose. So it's a combination. You have this the racetrack, the main aisle that goes through the store, and then you can shoot off into more of a grid layout. Think about a big box Target or big box Walmart Supercenter, right? There is the main racetrack that goes around, right? And as you walk in the store, there's those things in the center, so they maximize the retail, showing you things on the major aisles, and you have both. So that's a racetrack layout. So this would be a secondary layout. You could do a free form layout. Now, the free form layout, this is more of a boutique area, right? So you're going to have the fixtures now. So, you've got on the walls, right? If this is going to be like a clothing store, on the walls, you're going to have maybe jeans and cat, right? So you have some displays on the sides, but then as you walk in, you've got these smaller fixtures, right, that are set up showing display items and everything else. The freeform layout I think of a lot of times is like an Old Navy type store, something like that. I also think of a lot of times I think, like Old Navy type of thing, right? So you have that checkout counter, everything else right there. So you see these in malls, some of the different stores there, right, will use these freeform layouts. Okay. Now, part of this, I guess also with this freeform layout, I also think cell phone stores. That was the one I was thinking about. So the cell phone store where you come in, right? Those things. The other thing that you want to do is think, once again, how do I get my customers to engage? How do I increase my sales per visit, right? So part of this is not just designing the store in a way that will help customers find what they need, those utilitarian items. It is one of those areas, or the hedonic areas, right? We're also thinking now, okay, how do I get them to decide to purchase, right? So what kind of signage do I need? So the signage where, category, this is what I'm going to find here. Promotionals, hey, this is a sale, right? Do you use digital signage? Now, digital signage is really effective. It's easily changed. It's more expensive on the front end. It's going to cost you more on the front end, but long term, it's going to save you money because you can constantly update and change that. So that digital signage actually long term is going to be less expensive than it is than the traditional signage. So you got to think about, once again, you've designed it now. How do I create this atmosphere that people want to shop in? Right. So along with the signage, what kind of areas, what kind of displays am I going to have? What about my mannequins? Where are they going to be? End caps at the very end. How am I going to design those end caps so that people are going to buy? Promotional areas. What about the walls, dressing rooms? What are my cash reps? So you got to think about all these different things as you're designing your store. Now, just to mention with end caps are pretty interesting because when you see these at the very end of an end cap at the very end of one of those aisles, right, especially in a grocery store, if you have an end cap that is disorganized, like on the left with with that dump bin where we just have things all over, okay, versus we have the one on the right that's very neat and tidy and everything else. The disorganized dump bin actually encourages people to buy more, right, because they don't feel like they're messing up a display, right? So on the right, you might feel like, well, if I take this, I'm going to mess the display up, so I don't want to do that. So even the way that you display items within the store, this could create or deter customers from purchase. Okay. You also need to think, what's about my store exterior? And I know when I was working in retail, this was one of those things. Every day when I arrived as a manager, I would drive around the store. I would look for trash in the parking lot. I would look to see how many shopping carts were out everywhere. I would look for, Did the back of the store look organized, right? What about the exterior signage? Did we need to mow the yard, right? All these were things that I would think about when I would drive in every day as a retail store manager. So these are things that you should, if you're thinking about buying or opening a store as a store owner, these are things that you would need to be aware of and think about, the exterior of the store. Now, part of this then finally is going to be in creating this appealing store atmosphere, right? They call it atmospherics. I can't talk, right? Where you want to stimulate all five senses, right? You want lighting that's going to highlight merchandise and spotlight your feature areas. You want to create a certain mood. So just the way that things are lighted, the way that things are displayed, people will feel either maybe tense or maybe they might feel more relaxed, right? So what kind of atmosphere? You got to think about color, warm colors versus cool colors. What kind of music are you going to have playing, because music might affect a consumer's behavior. What kind of things are they going to smell, right? And this is one of the things working with nonprofits within churches, right? This is one of the things, what do the bathrooms smell like? As a pastor, have you gone into the bathrooms? And the same thing within a retail store. Have you gone to the bathrooms? What do they smell like? Because that, all these different things. It sounds weird, but these are things as a store manager in retail that you need to think about because it's going to affect whether or not people come back to your store, right? So the atmosphere that you create, right, is huge. And then, finally, how exciting, just do you want to have an exciting store? Do you want to have that theatrical sense like, Best Buy where they can go and look at these huge screens and everything else? Or do you want something that's more warehouse style, that's just very come in, get out, everything else? Do you want people to be able to maybe REI is really known for in some of their stores having climbing walls where people can come in and do some different recreational things, or do you just want people to come in, get out, right? All of these things will create as you design your store. These are all things that you need to think about, right? And think about your website as well. But all these areas should impact your customer experience, right? And these are all things that go into the store design side, which is your location. So with that brings us to the end of lecture number 4, and we will finish everything up in lecture number 5.